Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition, and the tabletop RPG industry. This is the week of May 15th, 2025. We've got some stuff to talk about, namely something that just hit, I think, last week, which I'm getting annoyed that like all the big news seems to be hitting like Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, so maybe turns out like Thursday morning is like the worst possible time to do like a live news show apparently. But this news I believe hit late last week. In fact, it might have even hit, I thought I remember even mentioning it whenever we did the stream last week. But it's Eberron, Forge of the Artificer, which is a new source book that's actually coming out this year, very, very soon. In fact, I believe it's in August, which is going to be just after Dragon Delves comes out, which is coming out in a few weeks, I believe. So this is a source book that has, obviously, the Artificer in it is the big thing. It's in the freaking title. But mainly, if you recall, they did the Unearthed Arcana, right, for the Artificer a couple months ago, and I covered it. I reviewed the Artificer here on the channel, and I was kind of complaining about the fact that the Artificer didn't get included in the official 2024 Player's Handbook. I would have thought that would have been a great addition since the Artificer was added in post-release to 2014, so it would have made sense to me to include it in the full package for the 2024 release. So I was annoyed they didn't quite make it. I guess they needed more time on it, or whatever excuse you want to think of. Or maybe the fact that the Artificer is or should be specifically in the Eberron world. So maybe, I don't know, but then they went kind of more Greyhawk with the 2024 stuff than Forgotten Realms. I don't know what the reason is. I'm guessing, but I'm still annoyed that it's coming separately. But at least we are getting it now. So presumably this is from the Unearthed Arcana that came out a few months ago. It's been play tested, and now all the stuff is going to be officially added. And I also assume everything at this point is 2024 rule sets, right? Anything coming out at this point would be to that rules, even though it never says on here. I guess they're not really making a distinction at this point between D&D 2024 and 2014. It's just this is right, because like with like 3.5 versus third edition or something, it was a thing. I can't see that they're making that a thing here. It's just this is like D&D 5e, so that's just what they're calling it, I guess. The Forge of the Artificer is a 112-page rule expansion with the Artificer with 4 revised subclasses. Did the Unearthed Arcana have 4? I'm trying to remember. Somebody help me out. There was the Battlesmith. So there's the mech suit one. I don't remember which one to go to which. There's the Alchemist. There was the mech suit one. There was the gun one. And then there's the robot pet one. So yeah, there's always been 4. And then it adds 1 new subclass called the Cartographer. I was also hoping that we would end up getting the Reanimator, which was just added in the new Unearthed Arcana that was released last week. But I guess since we're only just now seeing that Unearthed Arcana, that might actually be part of maybe another kind of Ravenlofty type book. But it's a shame because that was such a cool looking subclass for it. But we get no mention, I don't think, about what the Cartographer is. Obviously, I know that a Cartographer has to do with maps. So how is a map person gonna be translated into a power set? I'm thinking of like nightmares of like the 2014 Ranger in terms of like, oh, you can bypass all the travel stuff because you're the Cartographer. Like, what does that actually? Maybe it means like travel stuff specifically. You've got spells in, like maybe entangles. I don't know. Is there? I don't see any other information on Cartographer. So now I'm curious about that. 5 revised species. So obviously we're probably looking at the Eberron specific stuff. So what is that? Warforged. Help me out. What else is what else is Eberron? When I think Eberron, it's the only thing I can think of that's distinctive, aside from stuff that's in the Forgotten Realms already, is the Warforged. I don't know. I guess maybe some of the more monstrous races could be used as a 2024 species, maybe. Whatever in Eberron. Morgan, you would know more than me, I think. 17 backgrounds. That's a lot. Are those like backgrounds, like the 2024 backgrounds? Because those backgrounds are meaningful, right? They add like uh, it's your stat distribution bonuses. It's a free feat, and it does say 28 feats. Wow. Okay. So this really is a pretty big expansion for 2024. Then it's not just the Artificer. It's adding a lot of new content here. I guess it's our first big extra expansion for 2024 also. New spells, bastions, and magic items. 3 distinct genre-based campaign templates. That's a very specific choice of words for building fantasy noir, political thriller, and pulp adventure campaigns in the world of Eberron. You will do anything but give me a fucking campaign book, won't you? Am I being too salty? Release a campaign adventure set in Eberron, you bastards. I don't want campaign templates. I mean, fine. Genre-based campaign templates for building fantasy. So what? It's a bunch of tables and ideas, I guess. Not even a it sounds like it's not even a sample like mini adventure though. I gotta say I'm kind of disappointed by that. I do love all 3 of those styles though. Fantasy noir, which I don't even know. I can't even think of something that is fantasy. I mean, noir, I picture like the 1940s. You've got like your femme fatale, you've got your fedoras, you've got lots of smoking. Very no good and evil, very like drama, very crime. So I guess fantasy would just be like it's that in a fantasy world, which is great. Political thriller and pulp adventure. Yeah, all 3 of those are fun as hell. For genre-based campaign template. All right, I don't know what a campaign template is exactly, but if it sounds like it's a bunch of like tables and story hooks and ideas and stuff for like buildings, which maybe that can be very useful for folks. Am I alone in that I actually like having just pre-designed stuff with characters and locations and plots, and then I as a DM can come through and fiddle stuff and make it better, versus giving me a bunch of disparate ideas and tables and stuff, and then I have to generate everything from there. So maybe I'm in the minority on that, but that's annoying. I would rather just give me a full Eberron campaign book adventure would be fantastic. And over 20 new monsters, each inspired by a campaign model. I'm not sure what that means. A campaign model. So like one of our campaign templates we're talking about. This is the ultimate bundle on D&D Beyond is what we're looking at right now, which is a pre-order of $40. What does that get you? Receive the digital and physical editions of Eberron Forge the Artificer. All right, so for folks who have been complaining the fact that you have to choose one or the other, they do have an option for getting both now, which is nice. I don't know how long they've been doing this, by the way, that you can get both the physical book and the digital version on D&D Beyond. It's probably been a while. I just don't pay attention to D&D Beyond much. Plus 5 exclusive digital maps. That's cool. And the Artificer's Forge digital dice set. Release date August 19th. I think it's coming out slightly earlier for like hobby stores. Is that correct? This is probably the latest date that it's coming out then. That's kind of cute. They summarized it at the bottom. 17 backgrounds, 1 class and 5 subclasses, 28 feats, 9 magic items, 1 map, 25 monsters. Honestly, it seems a little pricey for a 112 page. So what is the equivalent of that? Is that like, because a campaign book is at least twice that. A rule book is 3 to 4 times that. That feels like it's more like like the Spelljammer stuff or something. It's a little bit smaller. Play the ultimate creative class. Okay, the Cartographer. Carve out magical pathways and portals. DMs hate this one trick by breaking your dungeon design. Oh no. So the Cartographer is all about like teleportation magic and cutting and just like has a portal gun or something. That seems like a nightmare for the DM. Well, there's magic spells that do that. I can't remember. Pass Wall, I think, is one of them. And obviously there's magic items that do that. So we're just going to give the Cartographer these tools. That seems terrifying. Let's see. Morgan says, I know the Korovar half-elves are one of the species. Really hoping for goblins. Yeah, because goblins are more like a little more sentient in Eberron, right? Half the new feats are probably the dragon marks. Cartographer is probably for navigation of airships. Backgrounds related to dragon marks. Do give it a like, yeah. The changelings. Okay, I forgot about that one. I get that one confused with, what was it, the Ravnica ones? But they were called something else. They were like mutants. Indiana Jones with magic, so regular Indiana Jones. Right. Funny you should mention Indiana Jones, because we're going to actually talk about another rulebook a little bit further on that's called Outgunned, which, yeah, I know my words kind of run off the screen there, but I got lazy about trying to fit them all in there. Yeah, we're going to look at the Roll21 in a second. I do have the teaser trailer that we can watch together. I have not watched this, by the way. A lot of the stuff I save for this stream, just for you all. All right, this is the Eberron Forge the Artificer teaser trailer on the Dungeons & Dragons channel. It's only 30 seconds long, so probably going to get just some concept art, or actual art, I should say. Harness ingenuity. Unleash possibilities. Forge wonders. Alright, that was a fine trailer, I guess. I was hoping for more of the talking head thing where they would sit there and tell me about it. Yeah, so the Roll20 version, they do have a pre-order bonus. It's a lot cheaper on Roll20, by the way, $19.99. But obviously it doesn't come with the physical book. Let's see. Comes with $120 worth of exclusive Roll20 bonuses. The Inventor's Vault includes maps, tokens, and adventures designed to supercharge your Eberron experience in Roll20. Yeah, they have a weird, like, pre-order bonus, which has to do with what time you pre-order it, I think. They started doing this year. Unlocks May 26th. The first Inventor's Vault bonus, Town and Around Map Pack. Explore the urban environs of Eberron with three. By the way, raise your hand if you have to look up how to spell Eberron every damn time. I have the same problem with like Caribbean. It's like, all right, how many B's, how many R's? How are we doing this? Must pre-order by June 8th to claim. So that's the tricky thing here is you have to actually pre-order it by a certain date to get some of their rewards. And then there's additional rewards that unlock later on. But you'll only get... So let's see. So if you pre-order now, you'll get as many rewards, I think, as you can get. And then the longer you wait to pre-order, then stuff will be eliminated from the pre-order bonus thing. So they want you to pre-order as early as possible, essentially. I wonder if I can I look at these right now or no? I don't know if these are actually available right now. Okay. So these are like maps. It's cool looking maps. Machine Shop. This is by Lost Acumen. Oh yeah, these are 3 map packs. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, so these are, yeah, you get 3 extra map packs, I guess. That is a nice incentive. I mean, if you play on Roll20 and you know you're going to want to do the Eberron stuff, then if you pre-order, you'll get some extra bonuses. But the weird thing is you don't know what your other pre-order bonuses are going to be. So they want to incentivize you to pre-order early so you get as many unlocks as possible, but they won't even tell you what the later pre-order bonuses are. It's a weird weird deal. I feel like even like I picture like like when Kickstarters do their stretch goals, right? And they'll be like, here's the stuff that unlocks if we reach that point. I feel like they should do something like that here, where they at least like tease like what's coming with our pre-order bonuses. If I understand this correctly. It's just copy and pasted information from the other thing. So who's interested? I know Morgan's probably interested because you love Eberron. I have not played an Eberron. Mainly because I have not had... I got a sneeze. It's like right at the freaking edge of my... maybe not. I'm willing myself not to. Mainly because there hasn't been a big campaign book yet, right? And that's where I usually base all of my big D&D stuff off of, is having that nice big campaign book to explore with, and we haven't really had that. I mean, officially wise, I guess I should say there's been a lot of great source books, and I'm sure people have created some third-party stuff that I might need to dive into, which, you know, I just played Call of Medivh. That's a third-party campaign, so I've certainly had success with that. But I'm still disappointed we haven't had a full-on campaign set in Eberron, like we have with, for example, Dragonlance or Ravenloft, like a lot of other settings, or at least a mini one that we got with Spelljammer and Planescape, although I think a lot of folks would argue those were not quite enough. Well, the Planescape one technically is 3 through 10, I guess. It's actually pretty long. Spelljammer one is not very long, though. It's a smaller adventure. Like, the one thing we got from Eberron is part of the Vecna campaign, right? One of the locations we go to, but I think we go to all the locations, So that is Eberron, Forge of the Artificer. You know, unfortunately, I think this is going to come out after I start my next campaign, which will be a bummer because that I wonder if anybody would want to play an Artificer in 2024. Although there is value, I think, in just having your first 2024 experience. That's what I'm calling the new D&D set, by the way, until we come up with something else. Just the Player's Handbook, which is what we're doing with our Dragonlance patron campaign, which is starting, or basically has started with Session 0 last week, using just the content from the 2024 handbook. But already, starting in August, we're going to have an expansion to that, so people could start playing as the Artificer. But I assume I would probably be starting my game, I think, in July. I'd have to look up the schedule on that, but I think the timing is a little bit slightly late for this to come out. For us to include it, but honestly, I don't know if I would necessarily include it, because I think it might be easier to just start with the basic handbook before jumping into the first expansion. God, they really just kill it on the art, though. That's one thing they've always done a great job here. Last time for the 20, they reopened all of them like the week before release. That's okay. So they're just like panic, like, all right, everybody pre-order right now. We'll have all the stuff in there. I think, was that the first time they did this? I think was the 2024 books on Roll20 we're talking about, the pre-order bonuses. I think that's the first time I remember seeing it, when they did this, like, hey, here's a in fact, it might be only the first time I'd even seen pre-order bonuses in general, but then they did this whole, like, hey, we're going to kind of release things, and maybe it just helps them keep in front of the news cycle. Like, hey, another 2 weeks go by, you can pre-order. That's has value, I suppose. They had me at Noir. Yeah, it could be fun. Barbarian, halflings, and dinosaurs. Yeah, it sounds like a great world setting for sure. And I think I mentioned, in fact, during the Session 0, in many ways it's the opposite of Dragonlance, because Dragonlance has such a, written in stone timeline, although it also does time travel shenanigans left and right. Very like Star Wars-y, where it's like, hey, here's what happens in every step of the way, and then different adventures take place during that timeline. But it's a very strict, like, sequence of events, basically, for generations. Whereas Eberron, I feel like one of its strengths is it's not that. It's like, here's what happened in the past, and then here's the setting. Like, there's no... I guess there's no, like, canon events that have taken place once the setting was basically designed back in, I want to say 3rd edition-ish, I think is when it came out. 2000, somewhere around there. So it's more of an open, blank slate. Not to say it doesn't have a past, it has like a history and the whole like Mournlands and Sire and all that cool stuff with the Warforged. But I feel like it's way more that DMs can really take it and do what they want with it. Versus Dragonlance, you're way more like, okay, here's what happened, here's what needs to happen, and you all are just part of this specific time, unless you're playing like a what if thing or something. All right, so I guess I'm looking forward to it. I'll check it out. But in terms of my campaign stuff, I probably won't use it, at least immediately. And I feel like it's like, wake me up, or, let me know when they do an actual Eberron campaign book. Is it cool that the other thing that I want to be cynical about is, okay, are we just going to get all of the other source books in new 2024 versions? Because we already got an Eberron book for original 5e, right? It was Rising from the Last War. Which I think I have that book. I do have that book on my shelf, even though I never did any Eberron thing. I like that book. So are we going to get another Ravenloft, like Van Richten's Guide, in other words? Because they just did a bunch of those Gothic heroes for Unearthed Arcana, right? So are we just going to see that for the 2024? Which I guess wouldn't be the worst thing, but it's just, they're just going to repeat their cycle. They're like, all right, let's look and see what worked, and then we'll just kind of repeat everything, but updated. Maybe. The other thing is Crooked Moon. The Crooked Moon from Avantris Entertainment. I'll be honest, this is a blind spot for me, but apparently this was the most, let's see if I can get this right, the most successful like 5e Kickstarter ever. I think it still holds that record. Made millions of dollars just a year or two ago. And this is folk horror, which when I hear folk horror, I instantly think of The Witcher. I'm sure there are other, horror, any like horror movie that has like, a rural village that's like a cult or something going on there, has like stuff steeped in kind of a local mythology, like cryptid kind of situation. Always has like a creepy woods or forest thing going on. That's all what I consider folk horror. And I'm personally not too into doing grimdark horror stuff in 5e. I usually lean towards the other direction, which is more high fantasy and heroics and stuff like that. But the Crooked Moon is going to be on D&D Beyond, written for the new 5th edition core rules. Oh, interesting. Maybe that's what they're calling it. 5th edition core rules and fully compatible with your 2014 content. So maybe they're calling 2024 the new core rules. The release is on June 17th. Evoke horror with what lurks inside. The Crooked Moon brings folk horror to 5th edition, provides tools to terrify your friends in a haunting game. Drawing inspiration from grim folklore, legendary horror films, and classic Halloween aesthetics. For folk horror role-playing, specifically. 15 subclasses, 13 familiars, 13 species, 85 monsters, 26 heirloom items, a huge adventure campaign! Hey, look at that! Look at that, Eberron. Fucking shots fired. Look at what they could do. There's a campaign. Suddenly you've piqued my interest. A campaign from levels 1 to 13. Let's fucking go. Yes. Epic post-game content to level 20. Brand new fate weaving mechanics. 11 multi-phase boss fights. Go on. That sounds cool. I feel like 2014 5e flirted with this with the, what was it, the Odyssey book? Or Odysseus, whatever the fuck that Mythics of Theros, was that what it's called? The Greek mythology one. Where they had bosses that, when you reduce them to 0 hit points, it was like mythic bosses, right? and then they regenerated and they gained like half their hit points back and then unlocked a new ability. That to me is literally a multi-stage boss fight. So I am very curious, which I have not run something like that. I've probably run like custom versions of multi-phase boss fights, but not. I don't think I ran anything that was quite like reduced to 0 and then they gain new abilities or something. I don't remember. 158 chaotic curses, 40 spells. By the way, I love somebody added a fun adjective to every single one of these: bewitching, folkloric, chaotic, strange, fearsome, dark, paranormal, and cursed. Really, really thumbed through that thesaurus. 14 feats, 13 dark bargains, 13 potions, and 13 cursed curios. So that is a big fucking book then. If it's got an entire campaign adventure. Okay, 350 page. Jesus, the book is 632 pages? Oh my goodness. That is ridiculous. What? I don't have anything that big. All right, let me pull out. I've got the physical book for Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, which I've embarrassingly not really looked into much. But this is also a massive, massive book that was on Kickstarter. How big is this one? Okay, it's about a little less than 600. Pretty much right at 600. This is humongous, by the way. Like, this is a massive book. This compared to the Dragonlance campaign book that I'm looking at on my desk. That's crazy. That is huge. Wow. And the adventure alone is 350 pages, so half of it is this campaign book. That's honestly kind of a pain in the ass. I wish it was two multiple books. One that was that big. Wow, okay. Oh, wow, they're calling it... Okay, that's kind of cool. They're calling their folk horror adventure campaign the first for 5th edition 2024. Now they could argue that's the first terrifying folk horror adventure campaign, but honestly, it's kind of the first campaign in general for 2024, right? I know, yeah, they do. Well, it's all very Monster Huntery, right? And the Helianas. I really meant to incorporate or do something with it, but I don't think I could find anything to do in my last campaign, and I don't think it'd be appropriate for the Dragonlance one either, but I need to find some way. Maybe it's just a one-shot occasionally of running Helianas, but I do think it's very cool. Very like Monster Hunter inspired, which I love. And yeah, the whole the whole point is just to take out these like cool monsters, but it's all set in a certain environment, and you have to make like checks and stuff to get, advantages or disadvantages on the upcoming battle. It seems pretty nifty. This is impressive, though. The Crooked Moon. It's like a twisted fairy tale land, almost. Like the world itself is very dark. It's almost Ravenlofty. Oh, that's cool looking. Face fearsome bosses and multi-phase fights with terrain and minion mechanics on beautiful maps. I don't know why would we capitalize maps there. Oh man, this art is so cool. Twisted trees and a grinning moon, scarecrow, a train with like ghost smoke coming out of it. Shout out to the the ghost train from Final Fantasy VI. That is cool. All right, well, I'm interested in checking out a full campaign then, absolutely. Oh, maybe it is divided into 2 books here on digital. The Crooked Moon Part 1, Player Options and Campaign Setting. The Crooked Moon Part 2, Monsters and Adventure Campaign. Okay, it does sound like they actually divided into 2 books. Or maybe it's just divided that way digitally, because it does say 632-page tome. The campaign setting of Druskenwald. Okay, and I think there is a trailer for this. We can watch the trailer. This is a long trailer, by the way. For The Crooked Moon. Is anybody familiar with this, or am I finding it out with the rest of y'all? I'm did not keep up with this when it hit Kickstarter, apparently. Here's the trailer on Dungeons & Dragons channel. Watching animated pictures.
Smoke effects.
Ghost thing. Very like Tim Burton-esque, I guess, in horror, where everything's like all twisted and misshapen. Jesus. Monstrous Raven folk. Three-eyed goat. That's creepy. that was very Lovecraftian, actually, so in like 1920s fashion. Ooh, a new crocodile guy. That sounds awesome. God, the art aesthetic is just amazing. Thrall, what have they done to you? Working ghost things. What the fuck was that? Clown. That's not like that. Twos. Hey, we actually got adventurers. Not just messages. Yep, the burning of a wicker man. And masked people. Masked people is so creepy too. Man. That's good shit. That's good shit. It's a good trailer too. I feel like I'm a lot more impressed with this than I was with the Eberron thing. It was funded in November of 2023. $4 million US from over 21,000 backers. Wow. Which means it must have been delivered by now, and now they're putting it on D&D Beyond. Although it looks like you can still order stuff on BackerKit, maybe. Jesus, you could spend a lot of money if you wanted to. My goodness. $40 for the digital PDF, $65 for the hardcover book. So what was it? What was the cost? The full bundle was $69.99 on D&D Beyond. Save $10 when you pre-order the bundle. Does that include the physical book, or is it that's just digital? I get is that might just be the I think it's just digital, yeah. But that's a massive amount of content. Man. Well, I have not seen this in Roll20, unfortunately, which is how I usually cover it. I would be very interested to review this product, I can tell you that. But yeah, very Ravenlofty, right? But to be fair, Ravenloft slash Wizards of the Coast do not have a monopoly on folk horror, right? Or even gothic horror, which they do specifically say folk horror for this one instead of gothic horror. But there's a lot, that Venn diagram, you know, of horror in general is there. So yes, it looks Ravenlofty, but you could also say just any kind of horror themed RPG would look similar to Ravenloft to an extent. That looks very cool. There's the original Kickstarter page. Legends of Eberron. I'm not familiar with the publisher. Funded in 1 minute, yeah. I wonder if it says anywhere on their Kickstarter page that they were coming to virtual tabletop. Back when they first did it, they said it was going to be 400 plus pages. Oh, the ghost train got a mini. Nice. Is that a boss fight then? Do we get to suplex the train Final Fantasy VI style? Hell yeah. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Shout out to the witch. Campaign, Fate Weaving, Darkwood, Dreadful Subclasses, Halloween-themed races, the Pumpkin-headed Harvestborn, the Rat-like Plagueborn, the Murk-dwelling Deepborn, everybody's born, or any of the other race options. Inspired by Halloween pop culture. So I wonder how much of the world is like, has like a lore and history versus it's just kind of an amalgamation of what we all think of as horror and horror themes and tropes and characters and situations, which I'm kind of okay with either one. But, you know, that is a difference. Like, is this like a well-realized world with its own specific stories and, you know, history, I guess? Or did they just kind of throw in every kind of horror thing into it and then kind of wrote around that? Which, again, I'm not disparaging one or the other. I think it'd be okay for both. I almost would rather even enjoy the latter more, because I think, especially with an RPG, people want to just run in and play all their favorite, like, you know, horror tropes and concepts, and then explore that playing field. Legendary boss battles. Scrolling down is the original Kickstarter page I'm looking at. There are playtest material options. Including the Horned King, Patron, Warlock subclass, the Hypno Volfin monster, and 3 new magic items. Boy, yeah, they've everything here. $30 for PDF, but I think it's now $40 you can order it for. Okay, VTT integration. I'm finally seeing that here. It does say, is that the Foundry symbol, I guess? Obviously, Roll20 is the dice with the 20 on it. So I found it in their list of rewards. I didn't find it in the descriptions. But it looks like at some point... Okay, VTT. The full VTT digital asset bundle. So it's got to be coming to virtual tabletops at some point. I have not seen anything in Roll20 about that. What was the date for Crooked Moon? June 17th is when it releases, so we should start seeing something. That's a month away. So yeah, I'll totally review that. I'll review the campaign adventure, and then I guess in doing so, assuming that's also coming to Roll20, which I would presume so, but that seemed pretty cool. Again, not necessarily my wheelhouse, but I admit I was impressed by the production that went into this. And just the sheer size of the damn thing. And the fact they're giving me a full campaign, which I just complained about with Eberron. So, giving credit where credit is due for that. Shout out to The Crooked Moon, which is available on BackerKit, it looks like. I think it already released for Kickstarter folks. So you can get it on BackerKit now. I believe you can still order it. But you could also just wait and see when it comes to, or wait and get it when it comes to D&D Beyond on June 17th, and you can pre-order it. I don't know if the pre-order ahead of release to unlock exclusive 4 frames and 10 backdrops for your character sheet. That's not really much, I don't think. So there you go. That's the Crooked Moon. Has anybody ever ran? Sylvan used to run a Ravenloft campaign back into... Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, probably their best, you know, through line is Curse of Strahd. For 5e is still very popular, so that'd be probably everybody's example for playing in a horror-themed campaign. Next news post was just probably a quick one. A new novel set specifically in Ravenloft and feels obviously very inspired by the Curse of Strahd 5e campaign. This is Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons, Ravenloft, Heir of Strahd. I do not like having multiple colons in the title, but here we are. This is a new book set in the Gothic War world of Ravenloft, written by Delilah S. Dawson, who has written apparently some Star Wars expanded books. The book follows 5 amnesic adventurers who are summoned to a vampire nobleman's castle where they'll be forced to work together to overcome the darkness within its halls and in their own hearts. Releases Tuesday, May 13th, which was this week. And then on IGN, there is a excerpt that you can read. I don't think I'm going to read it because it's actually kind of a long excerpt. Looks like it's at least a couple pages. I love the cover. I know there's something about judging books by the cover, but this one is pretty great. It just looks like, and apparently it's written to be in a D&D adventure group. I don't know if they're necessarily going through the Curse of Strahd campaign, but they're obviously going through Ravenloft with Strahd in it. But the cover literally features the adventurers, which include, is that a Kenku maybe? Definitely a Raven dude. Which they all look completely like badass adventurers, like you would. They're all decked out with fucking magic and items and just all their sliders pushed to max, I guess. And then you've got Strahd in a shadowy form overhead with his goblet of wine, presumably a tarot card. And then, of course, the castle looks really great. And I did actually read through this, and it's got 5. I didn't want to try to do it because it's got 5 different characters. I don't want to try to do all those voices. But it's like an adventuring party, and they are, I guess they appear, which you do in Curse of Strahd, and I think in Ravenloft in general, or yeah, is Ravenloft the name of? Is that the name of just specifically Strahd's realm, or just like the Domains of Dread? Maybe the Domains of Dread in general. But like all of them, you like appear there from the Mists or from somewhere else. And apparently, when they appeared, they were summoned with no knowledge of, I guess, how they got there, which is also a pretty tropey but fun way of starting it off. So the hardcover is available now. God, fucking books are expensive, y'all. I think I almost always just buy paperbacks these days. I do like physical books versus ebooks and audiobooks. 5 strangers armed with steel and magic awaken in a mist-shrouded land with no memory of how they arrived. Rotrug, or Rotrug, a prideful orcish wizard. Okay, that's cool. I'm trying to identify who is who. Is that maybe the one in the very front? Shivarian, that's a cool name. A sardonic drow barbarian. Okay. Drow barbarian. It's gotta be the blue skin one here, maybe? No. That one's got horns. It's gotta be the one on the right then. Alishai, an embittered tiefling paladin. Okay, that's the blue with the horns. These are all really cool class. Like orc wizard, drow barbarian, tiefling paladin, Ka, a skittish Kenku cleric, and Fiel, a sunny human artificer. That's a cool party. I like that. After they barely survive a nightmarish welcome to the realm of Barovia, a carriage arrives bearing an invitation. Fairest friends, I pray you accept my humble hospitality and dine with me tonight at Castle Ravenloft. It is rare we receive visitors, and I do so endeavor to make your acquaintance. The carriage shall bear you to the castle safely, and I await your arrival with pleasure, your host Strahd von Zarevich. With no alternative and determined to find their way home, the strangers accept the summons and travel to the forbidding manor of the mysterious count. But all is not well at Castle Ravenloft to survive. No joke. To survive the twisted enigmas of Strahd and his haunted home, the adventurers must confront the dark secrets in their own hearts and find a way to shift from strangers to comrades before the mists of Barovia claim them forever. I wonder if the whole book is actually set in the castle itself versus the region. You probably could do a whole novel in just the book, right? But that sounds cool. Again, I have no idea. I haven't read any of this author. But as somebody who is not well versed in Forgotten Realms lore and has only read a smattering of books, something like this, which is like, oh yeah, I know Ravenloft, I know Curse of Strahd, I like D&D where there's a bunch of, messy, dramatic characters with special powers from diverse backgrounds, which this checks all those boxes. So this sounds very cool. Dungeons and Dragons, Ravenloft, Heir of Strahd, which is just out now in hardcover. Sounds pretty cool. That sounds definitely like the kind of books I would want to read, which is just if you novelized like somebody's campaign. Again, I don't know if it's actually plays out like Curse of Strahd. It might just be a minor like spin-off or something where it's like, hey, this just takes place in the castle or something, but that does sound pretty cool. Ravenloft is the Remains of Dread. Shaggy Barbarian. Ravenloft was the name of Strahd's castle and then became the name of the setting itself. Okay. Right, because the original one was called Castle Ravenloft, right? Was the name. Took place completely in the castle. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And then with Curse of Strahd the first time they really expanded it to be like, oh, let's do a full like outer area campaign where the castle is like the climactic final thing. But then you have to go around the actual lands and do a bunch of other gothic horror stuff. But either way, I'm interested in this book. I don't know if I would frankly pay $30 for a hardcover, but again, I typically wait until stuff's in paperback form. But I do like D&D adventures. All right, moving on to something that's actually not D&D, but is a tabletop RPG related. I got a news post about this from Free League, which is they publish a lot of non-D&D stuff. This is Outgunned Adventures. It's the Outgunned Adventure core rulebook has released. So this Outgunned is their cinematic, like action tabletop RPG. If I recall, I've not played it. This is developed by Two Little Mice, the name of their company. And then Outgunned Adventure. So yeah, Outgunned is a cinematic role playing. And then Outgunned Adventure is inspired by like Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider and The Mummy, and is a very classic like pulpy adventure theme. And then this book comes with a core rule book as well as I think you can also get little mini adventures, which are available now on Drive-Thru RPG. Inspired by pulp adventure films and made for the acclaimed Director's Cut RPG system. I'm not familiar with that one. Although I did read that they want you to roll like 3 and 4 of a kind instead of having to roll higher or lower. Outgunned Adventure is the first genre book in the Outgunned line and can be played either as a standalone or as an expansion for Outgunned. It's available on the Free League web shop and in hobby stores worldwide. Like I said, it's also available on Drive-Thru RPG. Alongside the Mission Dossier Fall of Atlantis 3-part introductory campaign and a director's screen. In Outgunned Adventure, players take on the role of brave adventurers in search of an invaluable treasure. Much like other Outgunned installments, it's a race to thwart a villain and save the day, always outnumbered, always outgunned. I'll be honest, I love running my D&D campaigns pretty much like this, where it's like a cinematic action movie. So something that's like, oh, this is an entire RPG system based on that is what made me sit up and go, okay. Apparently it was crowdfunded in last summer. See its fundraising goal of €10,000 by raising €482,000 from 3490 backers, unlocking all of its stretch goals. Features a game system called Director's Cut, a set of mechanics using small pools of 6-sided dice to determine the outcome of the hero's actions. So many. I feel like the only two systems are either you use a D20 or use a bunch of D6s. When rolling dice, your goal is not to score the highest or lowest possible number, but to roll 2, 3, and 4 of a kind. That's different. Simply choose a role and a trope, and you are ready to go. There will be plenty of time to further customize your character during the game, and no option or feat will be out of reach no matter your role. Thanks to unlock stretch goals, Outgunned Adventures, you'll find 10 new roles. The Daredevil, the Captain, the Professor, the Star, the Smuggler, the Technician, the Guardian, the Heart, the Scoundrel, and the Hunter. Those are like the classes you play. I mean, it's pretty cool, and I love the art, and it even says like what the inspirations are for the characters. the Daredevil like inspirations, obviously Indiana Jones, Rick O'Connell from The Mummy, Nathan Drake in Uncharted, Laura Croft in Tomb Raider, and I guess that's The Rock's character in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. I could not tell you what the names of the characters were in that movie. But I am certainly a fan. I don't know anything about this RPG system, but I really love the theme. The art looks good. I love movie classics of the genre. Like all the ones they named are very good. Let's see if it's yeah, there's on Drive-Thru RPG. Outgunned Adventure. It literally just says for other unique systems on Drive-Thru RPG. Look at the way they did like all the art stuff. That's very Indiana Jonesy, right? Like very much so. Even like the little dashed line map thing. You can see like the previews here. Different levels of successes. Okay, they even have like the literal like scene from opening Raiders of the Lost Ark, and she's got the hat. That one might be a little too on the nose, frankly. Like, yeah, we know what we're doing here. And they've got the font. Oh, there you go. You can see all the classes lined up. The smuggler, the star, the hunter, the technician. Very cool, like, I don't know, colorful comic-y art. A system called the Director's Cut. How big it is? Does it say on there how many pages somewhere? It says it was out of the catalog in October, so I wonder why they're just now telling me about this in a press release. Outgunned Adventure. What was the press release then? Yeah, it says Outgunned Adventure. I don't know. Maybe that was a preview version or something. And they have the Fall of Atlantis, which I believe is the, what they call it, mission dossier. I don't know. Mini cinematic campaigns that include everything you need to start playing. Fall of Atlantis is divided into 3 shots: Frozen Legacy, The Way to Atlantis, and Poseidon's Fury. So maybe all of these would make like one movie-length thing, perhaps? Or is each one supposed to be like a movie? It's mini cinematic campaigns. So each one's probably a little smaller. I really hope something like this comes onto Roll20 or Virtual Tabletop, because that would be a fun one to jump into. It seems like the rule system is pretty easy. I haven't seen if there's a way to preview it, like you could with the Heroes Might and Magic one. Yeah, the D6s are usually fun because they usually let you roll like a shit ton of dice, right? And I wonder if there's ways to like get re-rolls and stuff. So I don't know anything about this Director's Cut RPG system, what it uses, but Outgunned is the main. So this is like an expansion to Outgunned. Outgunned itself, this is the Freely website, is specifically just modern like action, like picture Fast and Furious, I guess would be the easiest thing from this picture. Is that the only like modern action series we have? Maybe like Mission Impossible, I guess. It's not like we've got much more these days versus that like 80s, 90s. So that's the original one for Outgunned, and then Outgunned Adventure is, I guess, uses this system, but then is specifically like more of a exploration in the you know, ancient environments or something. I don't think that like, I wonder what I wonder if they have different kind of villains then, because the Raiders, the villains were like the Nazis. I don't know. There wasn't any mention about what the kind of villains or antagonists would be. Maybe they have different like villain styles to go through. Oh, here we go. There's a launch trailer. Do I have... Let's see if we can play this.
At IHG's Holiday Inn Express.
Ad. Sorry, I usually have my trailers open, but I did not have this one ready to go.
The world out there is full of unexplored jungles, lost pyramids, and cursed temples that are just waiting for an unprepared explorer. Your next journey starts today.
Narrated.
Collapsing floors, creaky bridges, poison darts, fire jets, and rolling boulders. You can expect all that and even more. But if I know you, a handful of deadly traps won't be enough to stop you. You have your eyes set on the treasure. Wherever this journey may lead you, you will rise to the challenge. Outgunned. Adventure awaits.
Okay. That seems to be the style of how to do these book launches, is you do kind of animated versions of your cool artwork, which is fine. So yeah, that looks cool. Like I said, it's a different system. This one, you know, unlike as much I'm a fan for what is it, the Heroes of Might and Magic game that I was talking about last time. I can see how that would not be the best way to do an RPG, because it's just this big tactical warfare thing. Whereas here, I'm obviously also a fan of like Indiana Jones and pulp adventures. I can see why that would be a very, very good RPG system, and just going on these little modern day adventures, basically, but doing it all in a very kind of cinematic action standpoint and like the length of a movie and everything. I think that could be really cool. So I am would certainly be interested in checking this out as well. So that is Outgunned Adventures, the World War II Axis faction. Yeah, can't say that anymore. Well, I'm not on Twitter anymore, so let's see. And then the final thing I was going to talk about, man, it's almost been an hour. Real quickly, is a new release from Kobold Press, back to 5e, I think, is More Prepared, which would be a confusing name if you didn't know that the Prepared is a series that Kobold Press has been putting out for years. In fact, I have at least one or two of their books. They're like Prepared and then Prepared 2, Prepared Boogaloo or something. And these are anthologies of, I was going to say adventures, but they're a little smaller and shorter than an adventure. So don't expect like Candlekeep Mysteries. But they are more involved than like an encounter. So I don't know what we would call that. I'm sure they just call it adventures. Yeah, they call it adventure. But I would say, now granted, I don't know the specific book yet, but I'm just basing it on their previous releases. That they are not as long or in-depth as the anthology books that you would see from Wizards. So like a Journey of Radiant Citadels and all those books. They'll instead be like one... Usually, like they've done like Book of Layers might be a good example, actually, where it's like, hey, here's a dungeon, and we're gonna fill it out, and then we might give you like some quest hooks for why you're in that dungeon, but that's about it. Like that's the whole, like there's really not much story involved. For example, it might still have a mixture of like, you know, social and exploration and everything you need, but it was a lot less, I would say, involved than the anthology books from Wizards, but still very, very useful because you can grab them and plop them in wherever you need to have a little bit of a longer thing that involves basically any kind of encounter that would also include a little bit of a dungeon crawl in it. And some of them can be pretty big, from what I recall. Which ones do I own? I think it's Prepared 2 that I did. And I might have reviewed some of these on the channel. You might have to look these up. I don't actually remember. It's been a while. I know that the original Prepared, I think it was one of the first Kobold Press books that I owned. Now, this one says it's for Tales of the Valiant, but I believe it's also, yeah, for 5th edition. So Tales of the Valiant, again, is Kobold Press's answer to 5th edition. They made it after the big OGL debacle, and it's basically 2014 5e, but plus their own like tweaks and stuff, which is probably increasingly confusing now that we have also a newer version of 5e. And I have not honestly looked at Tales of Valiant very closely because of all that. So this includes, again, adventures, but take that with a kind of quotation mark. And I don't want to despair. I love Cobalt Press. I'm highlighting this for a reason, but I just want you to know that normally what they would consider an adventure, I would consider a little bit undercooked for that, I think. So adventures for levels 1 through 15. That's a pretty big book then. Let's see. Examples are rescue survivors in the heart of a malfunctioning magical prison, travel the Whitewater through a subterranean war zone, save a wedding from a crashing bronze dragon. That's amazing. Explore a crumbling village with a serious doll problem. Confront the delightfully mischievous daughter of Dib. Those are capitalized. I guess that's somebody. And much more. The collection also includes detailed maps from cartographer Tomi Salama. Ooh, and I do love the Cobalt Press maps. They're always very, very cool with the map art. So that alone makes it very well worth it, I would think. So these 3 pictures on there. So this is coming out when? It's not a release date on it. Oh, is it out? Maybe it just came out. Yeah, maybe it's out. 196 pages. That's huge. That is a big ass book. That is legit for the hardcover. It's also priced that way though, $40. So I need to really take another peek at this. And maybe they've expanded it since the other prepareds. I mean, they're calling them one-shot adventures. So maybe they've done more with it. I just know that the previous kind of prepareds were more like the layer stuff that you would see, which again, they put out a lot of these things, right? They're like okay, for example, the what was it? I think there was the tower. I did a tower adventure for Call from the Deep at one point, which is 2 players. I believe that was like an anthology thing that Cobalt Press did, if I recall correctly. And that had a full, it was stocked full of dungeon and everything. And I did run it as a one-shot, but I would consider, so for example, for like the Candlekeep stuff and, journeys and all those, a lot of those I would consider to be multi-session. I don't think I would try to run a lot of those as a one-shot because I think they're a little bit more involved, a little bit bigger, have a little bit of a story built up for them, for example. And maybe this one does. I don't know. I'm maybe judging it before it came out, obviously. But again, based on their previous anthology stuff. But I do really like Cobalt Press's stuff. I've rarely been unsatisfied with it. So this is awesome. I don't... in fact, if I go to Roll20 real quick, let's go to... let's just search for Prepared. Let's see if it's actually on there right now. Okay, yeah. So Prepared and Prepared 2. I'm pretty sure I reviewed at least one of these on the channel. And it doesn't look like the new Prepared is on Roll20 yet, but I hope it is because these, like I said, are very good resources to have. And you can grab the hardcover right now for $39.99. A little pricey, but it is big, 196 pages. For 15 different one-shot adventures from one of my favorite third-party publishers. And I mean, the maps alone usually make this worth getting, especially via Roll20, for example. But as of right now, it doesn't look like it's up yet for Roll20, but Cobalt Press stuff usually does come there. So I'm looking forward to seeing it on there. All right, folks, we made it just about an exact hour, which is amazing. I literally do not, when I put these together, I'm just doing this live. I don't actually try to gauge how long any of them are going to take. That's going to be all the news for me. Thank you for joining me. Do note that I probably won't be able to do a stream next Thursday because I stream around 11 to noon, and my kids, literally their last day of school in our school district is next week, and they have a half day, so they're going to be getting out right around like 12 or 12:30. So I think it would just be too much of a hassle for me to try to do even maybe a short stream or something. And also I want to try to figure out when I can do at least one crafting stream for Dragonlance and kind of do like maybe like one per Dragonlance session. So I'll try to figure that out, but you may expect This Week in D&D to get bumped around a little bit, which if anything, I'll just give us more to talk about for the next time I do it, right? All right, so thank you to all the patrons also for helping to support this channel and allow all these streams to happen. And shout outs to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Zenicider, Roleplayer Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy, Warden, Eudaimonia LLC, Tom, 13 the Dogs, Marcus, Nugget, Hugo, Sherry, Jay, and Matthew. Gold patrons, RPG Paper Crafts, B-Boy, and Yuma, Deadlizard Lounge, Drome, Nathan, Fasigan, Tortoise, Scott, Refus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support.